The inhabitants of this great Indus Valley metropolis did not die out from a climatic drought. They were not wiped out by a sudden epidemic of an unknown disease, as the textbooks claim. They were instantly incinerated by a colossal atmospheric nuclear explosion. And this happened thousands of years before Oppenheimer launched the Manhattan Project. Welcome to Mohenjo-Daro, a city of the dead that hides the most inconvenient secret in human history. A secret entombed in radioactive ash. Official archaeology has been feeding us a convenient narrative for decades. Supposedly, the great Harappan civilization simply faded away, unable to withstand the shifting of full-flowing rivers. But look at these ruins without academic blinders. Do you see a systematic decline? No. You see an apocalypse frozen in stone, occurring in a fraction of a second. In 1922, Indian archaeologist Rakuldas Bandyopadhyay stumbled upon this city, and almost immediately he encountered anomalies that the scientific establishment refused to explain. Perfectly planned streets, complex sewage systems, multi-story brick houses, and an absolute absence of signs of gradual decay or a classic military invasion by barbarians. No mountains of bladed weapons, no signs of a prolonged siege. People were simply going about their daily business when pure hell descended from the skies. Remember what we are told about ancient wars: swords, arrows, wooden chariots. But how can we explain what research has discovered on these streets? The answer does not lie in clay potsherds. It is written in the language of radiation and ultra-high temperatures, absolutely unthinkable for Bronze Age technologies. During the excavations, dozens of human skeletons were found. They were lying right on the streets. Many were holding hands tightly at the moment of death. No one tried to bury them or flee. Death overtook them instantly, leaving no time for panic. Their poses are a freeze frame of absolute terror. But the most terrifying detail was revealed later, when independent British and Italian researchers, such as David Davenport, used ordinary Geiger counters. The radiation level on the ancient remains exceeded the natural background by 50 times. These are exact readings, comparable to Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the bombings.
Radiologists were in shock. The bones showed no signs of trauma, but were subjected to a colossal thermal and radiation strike of unknown origin. How did the academic elite explain this phenomenon? They simply shelved the measurements into the archives. Too inconvenient for the neat theory of linear progress. The supreme councils of antiquities continue to insist on natural causes of death. But does a cholera epidemic leave radioactive isotopes on human bones? The isotopic analysis, so carefully hidden from the general public, indicates a brief but monstrously powerful exposure to gamma radiation. And now let's move to the epicenter of the excavations. Archaeologists discovered a zone 50 meters in diameter where the city was literally ground to fine dust. All buildings within this radius were destroyed to the foundation. But the further from the center, the higher the surviving walls. The classic physical pattern of a shockwave. Take a look at this cross-section of the rock. At the very epicenter, the sand and clay melted, turning into a monolithic mass of shiny green glass. The exact same mineral, trinitite, is found today at the Alamogordo testing ground, where the United States detonated the first atomic bomb. The melting point of brick and quartz sand exceeds 1,500 degrees Celsius. Do you seriously believe this is the result of an ordinary city fire?
Ordinary firewood and oil are physically incapable of producing such a temperature in an open space. This is an undeniable engineering fact that historians ignore. The stones of the houses are melted on one side, the one facing the source of a blinding flash. The thermal radiation acted directionally and incredibly fast. We see traces of impact completely identical to those left by modern atmospheric nuclear explosions. The vitrification of the city occurred in milliseconds. This is not the fiction of internet conspiracy theorists. These are on-site documented physical evidence that dogmatic science cowardly prefers to call geological curiosities. But if this was a nuclear detonation, who pressed the button? The answer may hide in ancient texts that scholars stubbornly consider to be myths.
Open the Indian epic Mahabharata. What was perceived for centuries as a poetic metaphor today reads like a frighteningly accurate military technical report. The ancient text describes the deployment of an absolute weapon, the Brahmastra, a devastating projectile charged, as the lines say, with all the power of the vast universe. A blazing shaft of smoke and fire, as bright as 10,000 suns, rose in all its splendor. Is this not an exact description of a mushroom cloud? The epic then provides blood-chilling medical details. The corpses were burned beyond recognition. The survivors lost their hair and nails, and the food became poisoned. Hair and nail loss, poisoned earth and water. This is not ancient magic. This is a flawlessly precise clinical description of acute radiation sickness symptoms. The ancient authors document the consequences of transuranic elements with frightening meticulousness, millennia before the official discovery of the periodic table. Weapons of the gods, capable of turning cities of thousands into radioactive ash and leaving the lands barren for decades. They saw this horror with their own eyes. Mohenjo-Daro became a brutal proving ground, or a victim of a global conflict of civilizations, whose true technological level we are only now beginning to comprehend. A logical question arises. Why isn't this truth taught in schools? The answer is simple. Its acknowledgement would collapse the entire system of the modern historical paradigm. The Smithsonian Institution and world museums built their reputation on the theory of humanity's linear development from caveman to microchip creator. That is why, for decades, samples of vitrified ash from the Indus Valley have been secretly confiscated into closed vaults. Access to independent physicists is strictly forbidden. The academic nomenclature invented a ridiculous excuse. They officially write off the green glass sand as anomalously powerful and very frequent lightning strikes. Just think about the absurdity of this excuse. Thunderstorm lightning systematically striking a single historical point with the destructive power of a tactical nuclear warhead. Armchair scientists are afraid to admit that we are not the pinnacle of evolution, but perhaps merely degraded survivors on the radioactive ruins of the past. Any dissident archaeologist attempting to publish spectral data on Mohenjo-Daro's radiation background is immediately subjected to academic ostracism and loses funding. This scientific cover-up hides the grim truth. The technologies of total self-destruction have already been tested on our planet with fatal success. We carelessly walk on the bones of a great empire that split the atom and paid the price. But the most terrifying thing is not hidden in the past at all. If weapons of such monstrous power truly existed, then where are its arsenals? Was absolutely everything expended in that mythical ancient war? Modern geological radars detect strange shielded cavities deep beneath the rocky surface of Hindustan.
possessing a powerful artificial magnetic field. Officially, these are called tectonic voids, but independent engineering analysis of the structures points to regular underground bunkers of colossal depth, dark tombs in which unexploded artifacts of the Brahmastra may still rest, silently emitting millennial, lethal radiation. And here sounds a chilling warning, spoken of only in whispers today in closed geophysical laboratories around the world. Seismic activity in this region is rapidly increasing. Impending tectonic shifts could ruthlessly tear open these ancient vaults, breaching their containment. If a continental plate shift crushes the shell of an ancient weapon, Eurasia faces a catastrophe, compared to which the Chernobyl tragedy will seem like a mere spark. We continue to naively consider our ancestors as backward savages with bronze knives, while a ticking time nuclear bomb lies right beneath our feet. The true history is not yet written. It waits deep in the darkness underground, ready at any moment to remind us of its existence with one final, blinding flash.